Hello and welcome to my channel. It's been a while since my last video, unfortunately, because I still haven't gotten it back into the rhythm of actually editing videos, but also recording myself doing some drawings. I just recently did a bunch of aventurine drawings, I think 3 in total, in my sketchbook, and all of them I'm really happy with. But I didn't record myself at all painting those, and maybe that was why they turned out so great. I don't know. It's not that stressful recording myself painting. The only problem is I just have to set that all up and then commit. And sometimes I'm not even sure if something's gonna turn out well, and I thought it was just gonna be a quick practice sketch and not even a aventurine. But the drawing photo I saw, that's just how it turned out. And so, yeah, I'm a bit limited on that. I do have a couple of other things I've recorded, so I really need to kind of get back into actually recording myself painting, and then I'll have more stuff to post. So let's get into what I'm actually working on right now on screen. It is a painting of Kazuha from Genshin Impact. It's kind of more of a final version because I've already drawn the same thing in my sketchbook, but I had made several mistakes I really wanted to correct, and I also wanted to get a chance to paint it bigger, and that way I could get in all the details that I wanted. I also decided I really wanted to ink with the brush, just because I find it's just easier for myself to get in the line weight that I really want. I also wanted to paint with, or ink it with a different color ink as opposed to black. I went with Arch's 100% cotton paper, the hot press version, just because it's usually easier to ink on hot press paper. Using a liner brush can be very satisfying, but also it can be a little bit tricky, so I definitely had to also do a few practice pages of drawing random characters and stuff, because I hadn't picked it up in quite a bit. I've been lazy and just using regular fine liners, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I most enjoy the acrylic ink and the liner brush, just because you can control the line weight the most, and for myself at least, I find I can control it in the most satisfying way. With that said, in terms of the control, when I'm first dipping it into the ink itself, it kind of feels like it wants to unload all of the ink at the same time. This might be at certain points when it's already slowly starting to dry in the little dish I put the ink in, and like right there, it's kind of got all globby in the hair, which is pretty frustrating when that happens, but that's why usually before I commit to making a brush stroke right on the page itself, I have another scrap paper, usually of the same type of paper I'm using, or some similar quality, just to check if it's gonna completely unload and glob up and be too thick for some certain detail. It's the worst when you're working on, say, the face. You really don't want that part to get messed up. I guess that's one of the learning curves working with ink, maybe particularly acrylic ink, as that's the one I use most. But I've gotten pretty used to it, and I'm sure you can tell there isn't major globby mistakes all over the place. I did have a couple of mistakes, though, particularly that frustrated me. I drew correctly the way the forefinger and the thumb are supposed to be like closer together because they're holding the leaf, but unfortunately, when I was inking, I guess I didn't have my brain turned on, and I made the mistake of inking the thumb much further apart, so there's an entire inch, which looked awkward. I'm happy in the final that turned out okay, but still, it was really frustrating when I first caught that while inking. Also, I hope I haven't been getting too rambly in this video, just because I decided to not do a script this time. Sometimes writing a script means you have to go through several edits, and on occasion when I was reading them, I realized it made zero the only
sense
thing
what I was
is,
saying,
or it just didn't match up with what was on screen. This way, I'm just directly looking at the video as I'm recording. When you're first dipping into the ink, sometimes it's risky to do certain stuff like the face or eyes, because that stroke right there drives me crazy, because it kind of got blotchy and like it kind of unloaded a bit too much onto the paper. So sometimes you need an extra sheet of paper on the side. So after I finish all the inking, I go to if it's getting masking fluid. And then my recommendation is usually I really like that this masking fluid is blue. In the past, every time I had bought a masking fluid, it was just completely clear. And I know one of my friends also has tested it out again. Only had paper and just clear one. You have a feel for how thick, which is pretty frustrating because then just like a dipping pen where you tell where you put it down at all, and that was because it's drying in it. I think that's the previous one I also had was kind of like slightly yellow. I find I can get quite a bit with watercolor papers often. They're not like bleach. I even like the fact that there's still almost impossible to see. This one is like very blue, and every time I'm putting it as long as I'm getting the line weights that I'm just like I really hope this comes off. And by the way, a big tip is just put down. I did make a couple of mistakes in this one just because I think it was the actual previous sketchbook version I had put down, and I had accidentally put a bit of a thinner layer. I screwed up, and that was very hard to peel off, and you kind of have to then really kind of rub it in there, which stresses me out always because I don't want to wreck the paper, especially with sketchbook paper. It's just mixed media, so he would burn kind of paper and you know it's not got that much durability. This one is a hot pressed cotton paper. I believe it's Arches. And it seemed to handle it well. So yeah, now I'm getting into just coating everything with water and then adding the colors and doing the kind of Japanese maple color or fall kind of color stuff, which kind of goes with the character because yeah, that was the main reason why I really wanted to paint him. I really like the color schemes of all the Genshin and all the Hoyoverse characters, I guess. Also, I'm using Daniel Smith paints again. It's just my go-to palette when I'm at home. I think the orange one I have is a Mungyo Vermilion. It's more like orangey. I don't know if it's a proper vermilion or something because I know I've seen reviews or something that were describing the Mungyo palette itself. And I gotta be honest, I have no idea what color vermilion actually is because I've never actually owned that color. So be warned if you're more knowledgeable in terms of specific colors. I forgot what where the thingy is where it says the actual pigment. But overall, it's a really nice orange, and I didn't actually have an orange in my palette. I've been custom building my own palette. I think I've made a video about it. I think I did. I rejigged it once again though, so I don't know if I if it's up to date because I rejigged it probably a couple of months ago once again, just because I tend to enjoy doing that, and I have no self-control and I keep buying more colors. So I think I had to buy a whole new tin actually, so maybe I did make a new video. Nope, apologies, I just checked, and the very latest update to my palette I had done very recently. I mostly needed to change out the Daniel Smith tin for one that could actually allow me to put more colors in the middle row. The one thing that drives me crazy is there's a lot of palettes where you can't stick anything in the middle row aside from like a paintbrush, which is, in my eyes, kind of a waste because there's plenty of space to put it in, and you know, if you're crazy and you keep buying more paints, you kind of need to do that. I don't have the whole row full, but there was just a couple of extra convenience colors that I had mixed and added just for specific things. So yeah. Going back to the actual painting right now, I was just trying to get a bit more of kind of like it looking like there's more lighting in the scene look, because sometimes I paint stuff and I'm just like too stressed that if I paint in the shadows on the face, it's gonna kind of look ugly, and so I just end up not really painting in proper shadows. So this was kind of me attempting to really push myself and do this and not get stressed out even if I ruined it. But I actually had a lot of fun with this, and I wasn't actually as stressed out as I thought I would be. Probably because I did a whole practice painting essentially in the first place, and then I knew all the mistakes I made, and so I was trying to improve. I will pop in, I think, the original sketch painting, although it is posted on my Instagram, so you can check that out there. But and I think I already posted this because I've already painted this a while ago, and I've just been too lazy to put all the video recordings together, sorry. The only shock I will say of difference between working with the mixed media paper and the Arches hot press paper is the fact that the Arches hot press is actually off-white, while the mixed media one was a bleached white kind of look, so it kind of affects your colors slightly. I mean, once I finished it, and even looking at it now, I can't really tell. But when I first started, I was worried. It was just like, oh, my colors aren't going to turn out as bright or whatever. And if you ever have those fears, I think once you actually start working on the paper and everything, you really don't notice it in the end. And once again, I am very happy that I did this, because working on a larger scale is actually so much easier, at least for myself. If you are very good at working tiny size, then for sure just keep working tiny size. But for me, being able to like do all these details and paint them in, and even add variations in color, which I really love seeing other artists do that, where it's not just like one color that you put down, but multiple colors or something. And I think I've used this word so many times already in this video, but whimsical kind of looking, and very fantasy kind of like a coloring. I don't know, I think some people have described that. I was just happy also that I was starting to get the colors I really wanted out of this artwork. I mean, even in the sketch version, I more or less was achieving it, but with some mistakes, especially with the darkest colors. I had an issue with, I noticed that I stopped layering too much with watercolor because I was afraid to layer too much, but especially when you're working with a more quality paper, you can definitely layer quite a few times. I even with the Ohuhu sketchbook, I found I can totally layer a bunch of times and it won't be as bad. It's one of those things where I think was a and now for the final touches, as you're layering more with the watercolor, you just add less parts essentially. And I think doing that won't off-white or white most papers to paint in can be the trickiest quality. And I think Ohuhu and shadows, the Canson not just media paper, plain gray, and will have some interest. And so like, but yeah, always do test runs on your paper and have a scrap. I guess it's tricky balance for myself. Is my recommendation if you feel like maybe yours won't hold up. Is always fun to do. So overall, yeah, values of watercolor can be tricky. I know for me, I've always struggled with that, and so I was really happy I was sort of just added values I wanted of like the watercolor itself and red and blue. Also, I was working on, I don't think it made a huge difference. It seemed to at first where the weather kept changing from really cloudy and almost about to rain kind of look to bursts of sunlight, and yeah, so apologies for it kind of shadowy, but I think overall it turned out pretty fun. At certain moments, the majority of the footage is actually not in the sun, and I also set the ISO on my camera to a specific one because it was mostly cloudy. Otherwise, I think if I left it on auto, it probably would have been auto adjusting, but because I didn't, it just ended up being a bit washed out at certain points, quite a few times actually, through this middle section of the process, so sorry about that if you're blinded by the brightness. And finally, just working on now for the final details, and also working on the white bits, because the white I definitely love last, just because once again it's off-white, because mostly it's not even I tend to white, I guess, struggle sometimes with the lightest parts. I always see other people painting, you know, just a basic blouse and it or something fantastic. Hair also really nice, hair is like a creamy white. It's not like solid white. I'm painting anything sort of white or very light, it can mix. So I kind of I think it was boring. and
titanium.
yeah, buff titanium.
I can't say realistic.
A few
because
other
it's more
colors.
of an
I was just
anime
mixing
piece,
in
but
that
just
I'd already used.
something's missing.
This one was
I feel
where
like
being
I
very
managed
delicate and
to
tricky,
do
and I
an
don't know
okay
if I
job. There
shaded
wasn't
some
thankfully
stuff
too
more
much
correctly.
white areas to really be painting.
Just
and I
because
used buff titanium
white
for his
is-
hair because
it's the most hard
Kazuha's hair
to
is
shade
like
if you're
a
trying to be
creamy
very creative with it,
off-white,
not just go with
white,
just a gray.
solid white.
I
like,
think
cream
overall it
or
turned out fine. It's just I think
something
for
in terms of the
the
Genshin
footage
characters
itself,
have.
maybe it's hard to see and it just looks very, very washed out and bleached out, which is always the downside with watercolors. I find they don't transfer easily when you're photographing them or even making a video with them. I know anytime I'm posting my watercolor art, I always have to return the saturation, like put it all back, because for some reason the camera's like, no, I'm not going to have any saturation, even though I'm a digital thing, and in digital you can have all the saturation you could possibly want, but when it's taking a photo of something saturated like a painting, it's like, no. And the painting is complete. If you got this far, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.